In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there exists a terrifying legion of Chaos Space Marines dedicated to no god but themselves. Fear is a tool, and fear is what they live off of, targeting the weakest prey they can find, tearing them from their families, and resorting them to the worst torture possible. The dreaded legion is known as the Night Lords. Conrad Kurz, master of the Night Lords, was a broken man compared to his Primarch brothers. Due to his ability of foresight, his life was haunted by terrible and horrific visions of the future, and this generated a level of psychic anguish and despair that set him apart from his fellow Primarchs. His psyche badly damaged by the difficulties of his early life, Conrad Kurz never recovered his mental balance and sought only oblivion from the pain of his existence. He believed fear was a crucial tool and was the most potent weapon. He taught his Astartes to be as brutal and savage as possible. Kurz and his legion would turn their back on the Emperor and join Horus for the massive Horus heresy. Nearing the end of the heresy, Kurz would be assassinated by the Kaleidus assassin mission on the world of Sagualsa. The Night Lords' tactics are built on one fundamental principle: the art of fear. They believe that instilling terror in their enemies is a weapon as potent as any blade or bolter. To achieve this, they employ a range of horrifying methods, ranging from torture, both physical and mental, psychological warfare, and also guerrilla warfare. Night Lords usually pick on the weakest prey. They can find most notably a backwater planet with small town populations. But if called upon, they will fight against stronger prey, such as during the invasion of Cadia. They raid the planet under the cover of night and infiltrate. They butcher and maim through the innocent. They take families from their homes and resort them to torture that is too cruel for a mortal to witness. It doesn't matter whether you are male or female, child or adult. You will not be spared. If you're lucky, they will kill you immediately, but most of the time, a merciless and relentless torture awaits those poor souls. The townsfolk will be brought to the center of town and slowly killed one by one in the most brutal way possible, while changing depending on the Night Lord responsible. The children are the first to be killed, causing the parents to be outraged and saddened. Then the adults, and then the elders. Generation to generation, a bloody mess is left for the poor soul that has to check on the planet to find. Sometimes, and this is very rare, a lone survivor is left by a stroke of dumb luck, covered in blood and utterly broken by the sheer acts of depravity he just witnessed, uttering and muttering words that could demoralize any loyal servant of the Emperor. The Night Lords are the 8th founding legion of Space Marines. Their identity would be shaped by Kurz's dark past and psychic visions, leading them to be infamous among all other legions for their use of fear. During the Horus Heresy, the Night Lords found themselves divided. Some members, including Kurz himself, chose to side with the traitor War Master Horus, while others remained loyal to the Emperor. The Legion's brutal methods and internal strife made them infamous among their fellow Space Marines. After the end of the heresy, they would enter the Eye of Terror, escaping the vengeful Imperial forces. The Night Lords became renegades, attacking backwater planets and very rarely engaging in huge full frontal assaults, rather preferring a stealth approach. During the 13th Black Crusade, led by Abaddon, the Despoiler, the Night Lords joined the forces of Chaos in a renewed assault on the Imperium. Their contribution to this campaign only intensified the horror they spread, but there was some rivalry with the Despoiler because of a previous Night Lord librarian that turned his head to join the War Master. In the present, the Night Lords are a shell of their former self. But despite this, the Legion has tried to rebuild themselves, extracting gene seed and taking suitable candidates from the towns they raid. Shortly after the Night Haunter had reunited with the Emperor of Mankind, and departed his homeworld of Nostromo to take part in the Emperor's galaxy-wide Great Crusade. Talos Valcoran was recruited into the 8th Legion from Nostromo, along with his future squadmate, Zarl. Talos served the Night Lord's Legion as an apothecary within the Night Lord's 10th Company throughout the Great Crusade and during the dark days of the Horus Heresy, willingly following his Gene Father into treason against the Emperor. Talos' meteoric rise within the ranks of the Legion eventually allowed him to claim a place within the Night Haunter's inner circle. Following the murder of Conrad Kurz at the hands of the female Kalidas, assassin known as Emshin after the death of Horus, Talos disobeyed his Primarch's last order and was the first to hunt the Imperial assassin in the name of righteous vengeance. This is how he earned his sobriquet the Soul Hunter, as had been prophesied by his Primarch before his death.
You will hunt one shining soul while all others turn their backs on vengeance.
Talos ignored his Primarch's last orders to leave his assassin be and began the relentless pursuit of Emshin, whilst the rest of his fellow Night Lords wept for their Gene Father, following his final orders and not pursuing his killer. Though his fellow legionaries tried to dissuade Talos from his chosen path, he remained committed to his revenge. It was only after the discovery that the Imperial assassin had stolen several of the Primarch's possessions, including the Corona Nox, the Crown of Night, a symbol of leadership for the Night Lord's Legion, that the rest of the Legion eventually joined in the hunt. But Talos had no care for the Night Lord's stolen relics. He only burned for vengeance for his Gene Father's death. The Soul Hunter pursued the assassin from the Night Lord's base of operations on Sagualsa across the galaxy. Eventually, Talos achieved his oath of vengeance and brutally disemboweled and mutilated Emshin, following the shattering of the Night Lords as an organized traitor legion into multiple competing warbands. After the death of their Primarch, Talos would follow Vandred and Rathi, the Exalted, as part of his warband for many millennia on the world of Kryth. Talos would refuse servitude to Abaddon the Despoiler, the War Master of Chaos, and his Dark Gods, and later abandon the Black Legion forces after the Despoiler attempted to use First Claw as a way to shield his own forces against an Imperial war fleet. Later, Talos and the Exalted would play a key role in the fall of Villamus, allied with Huron Blackheart and the piratical heretic Astartes known as the Red Corsairs. This alliance collapsed soon after it was initiated, with the Night Lord stealing the Red Corsairs battle barge Echo of Damnation, a former Night Lord's Legion vessel the Red Corsairs had appropriated. As the battle raged, as the Red Corsairs fleet pursued, Vandred would give his life to allow the escape of Talos and First Claw. Talos was thus left in sole command of First Claw and its allies. Talos' prescient visions would eventually guide he and his warriors back to Sagualsa, the place where their Primarch had fallen so many millennia earlier in an attempt to rebuild their legion's depleted numbers. Here they laid waste to the planet's new population of Imperial colonists, but found themselves ambushed by the Ezriani of Craftworld Oathwe, who were looking to again kill the Soul Hunter before he could become a future threat to their dwindling species. In the ensuing battle, nearly every member of Talos' warband was slain, and he himself became embroiled in a desperate single battle with the Phoenix Lord Jane Zar, an entity the Night Lords only knew as Void Stalker. Talos allowed himself to take the Phoenix Lord's spear through his chest and then detonated a crate grenade to kill them both. However, the blast stopped short of killing the Phoenix Lord, whose crippled body was finished off by Malcharan. In the wake of his death, Talos' sacrifice was deeply respected amongst the members of the Voith Legion. His gene seed somehow remained intact despite the damage done to his body by the explosion, and his comrade Variel the Flare harvested Talos' gene seed to ultimately create the new prophet of the Night Lords. Named Decimus, he would become the foretold prophet some solar decades afterwards, and would begin to unite the Voith Legion in preparation for the 13th Black Crusade. This prophet advocated assaulting the Oathwe Ashurani to keep them from offering their assistance to the Imperium during Abaddon the Despoiler's great assault, thus bringing to fruition the Ashuriani's fear that Talos Valcoran would in some way represent a threat to their people. Night Lords welcomed the coming of the Great Rift at the dawn of the era Indomitus with relish. Fully half of the Imperium Nihilus, was wreathed in impenetrable darkness, cut off from the light of the Astronomicon, while the other half, the Imperium Sanctus, was left in confusion and chaos, leaving the warbands of these piratical heretic Astartes to indulge their every depraved whim. And indeed, the remnant of the Viath Legion, who had been reduced to an existence of piracy and reaving in order to replenish their battle gear in numbers, prospered like never before. Departmental Minotaurum worlds were stripped bare by night-clad warriors. Several Space Marine fortress monasteries were raided, gene seeds stolen, and armories emptied, the defenders mutilated and ritually slaughtered. Worse still, the Legion's chaos sorcerers devised new methods of exploiting humanity's weakened state. These methods were as cunning as they were unthinkably cruel. Thousands of astropaths were abducted and subjected to agonizing torment, for the sons of Conrad Kurz had learned how to use the combined psychic trauma of their victims to create siren signals that would divert or lure stranded Imperial vessels into their clutches. The Night Lords learned to practice this dark art on a grand scale. Entire worlds were transformed into monuments to pain and terror, and the sons of Kurz delighted in every gruesome atrocity.